Hey, welcome, welcome, welcome. We are starting another one of our streams. I was thinking if it's going to be yesterday or today. So we decided to go today. You can say thanks to it to Ali, all. Oh my God, language. Please come back. You can say thanks to Ali and everyone else on the moderator teams because without moderators, this channel wouldn't exist. The quality wouldn't be there. It would be a complete nightmare, and I'm pretty sure that all of our chats, all of our discussions will be turned to dust because of the bots that are just sprouting nonstop. We are a year and a half into war, and people are still coming around and spreading the same old information that is super, super obvious that it is a complete troll. And I'm very happy that moderators that are working on this channel really, really hard, dedicating a lot of their time. So please, let's start with us and everyone else giving a hand, saying thanks to them. I appreciate it. Additionally, if you want to find out this playlist, the music that just played right now, you want to hear it more, write an exclamation mark and playlist, and the bot will give you a link to it. Beyond that, we have some new songs on the playlist, and the first one that I need to give a shout out for is a song from Saint Javelin. They made a song as a cover mix, Imagine If There Is No Russia, which is extremely nice. We're right now going to be talking with Saint Javelin and see if we can do some kind of collab. But for now, we are doing sort of a collab. We agreed with the unit Terra Ops that we're going to help them get the drones to fight Russians. So if you have some money to spare and you really want to support this channel or anything else, consider maybe not donating today because, as you guys remember, my channel is not my full-time job. I am having a separate job. This is just something that I do separately. So I'm financially very, very stable. So if you're considering whether to donate me or to donate to Ukrainian Armed Forces, donate to the Ukrainian Armed Forces. I will support it wholeheartedly. The link is attached right now. It's the Terra Ops. I think it's terraops.info. Yeah, terraops.info/donate. It should be attached there. So if you consider giving me money, better give it to TerraOps. But if you will be able to give to both, I would not mind as well. I will put it to good use anyway. With this said, let's begin. Write me how you guys doing. I read all of your conversations before this whole stream started. It was extremely interesting to see what kind of thoughts and discussions, and I really caught up on the recent discussion that you guys just started on in chat, whereas that the proposition was that Ukraine should abandon Cyrillic alphabet towards Latin, and then to kind of distinguish themselves from Russia. And I think it's an interesting topic because one of the major parts of my channel is to help you understand a little bit more nuances around the Eastern Europe, Ukraine, and so on. And this is quite nice because nice topic to start off, because what we're having is a little bit of a misunderstanding. Because I feel that it's still perceived somehow that it's not Ukraine as an independent country that is, they're having their own culture, their own history, they're having their own ups and downs, wins and losses, mistakes, good sides, bad sides, like a normal people, like with every history of every nation that was like that. Some people think that Ukraine is only existing, or at least like it is implied basically that Ukraine is existing as an anti-Russia, that basically Ukrainians are just trying to separate themselves from Russians. And I don't believe that this is a very healthy way of thinking about this, because this goes very well in line with the same talking points where we say, oh, we should like Ukraine may be forced to negotiate. Ukraine will be forced to sign some kind of peace deal that they don't want to agree. With a lot of these talking points that Ukraine needs to do something that would distinguish them from Russia, as if Russia is so important that it's important also to distinguish from it in every sense, without first and foremost looking for like what you are doing. And in that sense, the talking point is that Ukraine has their own agency. And this agency needs to be recognized. And the agency, in a sense that they have their own power, they have their own history. They had a very, very difficult uh, period where a lot of their population didn't really understand what it means to be this independent state. Because for me, as an example, I am from Baltic states, and Baltic states were nations before, and Ukrainian nation was there, but it never settled in. And Ukraine found out themselves, the people, because people were there, the culture were there, and so on. It was just never a nation that materialized before that in a very specific borders. So when Ukraine found themselves in 1991, it took a little bit of a time for people to adapt. But we see now with 2014 invasion of Russia, as Ukraine and even before the protests, the 2008 and so on protests that Ukrainian people went through to awaken their national statehood. And this nation is not built on emptiness. This nation is not built on nothingness, because Ukraine, as people and a culture that is living in these lands, on these territories, have been there for centuries. They have been there longer than Russia has, because Russia is a bastardization of what was happening in Ukraine before Russia was even a thing. Current Russia is just an expansion, like it's a Muscovy plus. Renaming it to Russia was a dedicated decision made by the ruler of the territories of Muscovy, just so he can tap a little bit more into that heritage of the Slavic nationality, into that history of Rus. Because Rus was not Russia. Rus, and especially if we're talking Muscovy as part of Rus, was a very small part. And a lot bigger influence in Muscovy in how it's operating, what is the language like, what is the culture and relationship, is not actually the Slavic European nations. There's a lot of influence from the Mongol invasions and so on. And it's a long historic subject. The point is that both Muscovy, which is now called Russia, and that's why it's confusing everyone. Oh, there was Rus, and now it's Russia, which is not true. It was just done on purpose to confuse you. But the point is that Ukraine and people of Ukraine and state like this, it was like more of a city-state area that was there, Kiev and Rus. That part has their own rich history, with their own cultures, with their own dedication. And the way that Cyrillic language and a lot of other parts of culture came into that area is extremely important to recognize, to understand this conflict a little bit better. Because otherwise, a very shallow perspective is to think, oh, Ukraine is just breaking out from Russia, which is not true. That is not what is happening. This war is not what is happening. Ukraine is not breaking out from Russia. Yes, maybe there has been some certain Russian corruption into Ukraine, but there has been certain Russian corruption in many countries, in Europe especially. I'm pretty sure England and London is still not breaking out from Russia as hard as Ukraine is. The point is that Ukraine has their own history. They are doing their own thing. It is not dependent on Russia. Russia is trying to enforce them on Ukraine and bring upon their narrative that, hey, you are just a breakaway region of wrong Russians. And that's why it's very important for us to recognize that Ukraine is doing what it's doing not to spite Russia, not to break away of Russia. It's a complete Russian propaganda narrative. Ukraine is a people and with a lot of rich history, with a lot of very difficult history. That book that is written of history with every page saying, and then it got worse. So we should recognize that and understand that Cyrillic language, the anthem of Ukraine, the flag of Ukraine, everything that they have has a very, very rich heritage before we start saying that, oh, you know, they should try to change it because it looks too Russian. With this said, a little bit of a rant right from the get-go. I hope you guys doing fun. The questionnaire is up, so if you want to ask questions to me, please write in the questions Q&A form. I always have it open, so I'll be able to to talk about it. I'm hoping you heard that we started another channel. We have really were thinking about. Well, I did this experiment where I did videos updating of Ukraine on one channel, and then also doing videos where I was just talking about other things. And there was problem with YouTube, like YouTube algorithm was just getting confused, so people were getting notifications for videos that they were not particularly interested in. And just to kind of separate that a little bit, just so this channel keeps focusing on Ukraine and supporting of Ukraine, it's good. And then the second channel that I've created right now, which is called Global Matters, is there to give a wider overview. So I will be free to talk about a lot of other matters, geopolitical matters, and focus a lot on opinion. Mostly mine, because I will be talking, but I also think that it should be also your opinions. And in our Discord, if you're in this Discord, if you are in the Discord, you should join Discord. We have a special part section to the channel where you can propose video ideas, and I will post on that second channel a lot of those video answers, video to these questions and video ideas that you might have in mind. So join up to that, and let's see where we at. Dr. Canada, what's some examples of Ukraine technologies being used in the front lines, that ones that could be impressive for the armchair generals? I mean, Ukraine has a lot of technologies. We in the West very often think that like Ukraine doesn't have anything to offer. We think that Ukrainian designers, Ukrainian producers, Ukrainian technology is kind of backwards, because US has all these multi-billion dollar projects. It has a whole important hub of development, research, and investment into weapons technology, and that is true. However, Ukraine is extremely well suited to fight what they're fighting right now. One of the biggest notions that kind of came into the spotlight for me is that a lot of wars that Western powers have fought is not the same war that Ukraine is fighting. And when we are considering what Ukrainian producer, Ukrainian engineers, because Ukraine for a long time, even since Soviets and still, was the country of where people with a lot of brain power were very prevalent. There's a lot of smart people in Ukraine. And a lot of that smart people, they have their innovations. And for Western audience, a lot of these innovations might look too old, obsolete-ish. But we need to understand that Ukraine has been fighting this war since 2014, and they know what is up against them. Because one of the major balance, and you should watch Perun for that, is the economics versus the outcome. Because while Ukraine technology that it produces maybe is not the flashiest one, there is a good reason why it's being produced. Very often because it's cheap and it's simple to make. And while it's very nice that right now there is a design for Abrams X tanks, we see that, for example, in this war that is happening right now, actually tanks, they are important, don't get me wrong, they are important, but they're not as important as a lot of people were putting it up to. Especially, this is relevant if you ever saw Laser Pig's latest video, in a lot of people that are discussing, which tank is better. Because on the front line, in actual warfare scenario, we're seeing that there is not as much advantage to different tanks when an artillery shell hits it. Yes, there have been reported certain tank battles, but they are few and far in between. And if we're talking about Western style warfare, well, I mean, it doesn't matter really what kind of, well, I mean, like, it's good that you have a great tank, But if you're just rolling into territory that's been burned out by the aviation already, maybe you don't really need that much. And again, like I'm talking out of my ass. So maybe like super tanks are nice because there can be like just few of them, but Ukraine needs scale. And one of the major things that Ukraine is really focusing on is scale. And that's why it's important. So answering your question, is there any technology that can woo anyone from the West? Probably not. Just because we're so spoiled on this highly technological advanced things. However, when we're talking about warfare anywhere else beyond the West, like right now there is a potential conflict in Africa. When we're talking about a conflict with Russia, maybe some local conflicts in Asia, then what Ukraine has to offer, like cheaper, large-scale potential producers with quite easy to get components, that is a good wow element for a lot of these nations, and they will definitely challenge the market now that Russia has lost a lot of its Soviet legacy. Hope that was a little bit expansive, but I think it's a very interesting question. And I'm not a army guy, and I'm pretty sure guys in chat have already corrected me 10 times. At least I'm hoping so. Remember, it's your job. I'm talking here like I know stuff, but it's actually you that know stuff, so correct me when I'm wrong. That's what the YouTube chat's supposed to do, doesn't it? All right. How much more do you think Ukraine will have to wait for the F-16s? I think at least half a year. That's my feeling. But to be honest, with the tempo of deliveries from the Western allies, I'm a little bit saddened by it. Like, we're still discussing whether Germany should deliver long-range artillery. ATACMS are still being discussed again and again. It's silly, right? I don't understand this. I don't understand what is going on. And this is definitely some kind of deeper political game is being played, because in any kind of humanity, anything that is supposed to defend our values as democracy, we should have been doing anything that we can. There is the argument that I know of saying that, yes, but maybe Ukraine shouldn't win this war really fast, because then the Russia will want to get revenge again and so on. And I understand that's a fair point. But we need to understand that it's being paid with Ukrainian lives. So, I mean, like, just supply ATACMS, just supply less of them, but at least do something. It's just like I cannot understand Joe Biden in this, and a lot of Germany as well with their, like, I don't know. I feel it's silly. It's like kindergarten. Oh, we cannot. You're talking about sovereignty, right? We were discussing, let's talk about sovereignty. Germany is saying that they will not deliver missiles because US is not delivering. What, Germany doesn't have their agency? They don't have their sovereignty, And this is what, for me, showing that the country has less sovereignty is that they don't make decisions on their own. They're like, oh no, we need to follow the big boy. Look at Lithuania. Like, Lithuania has been putting how do we say, like, it's been causing trouble for China for a while now, because Lithuania is, they don't recognize Taiwan per se, but they are really warm relationship there, because Lithuania is saying, because values matter, your Europeans' value matters. And they're saying we can try to stand against China despite everything. Another country is like, oh no, money. We're going to lose money. Oh no. Yeah. So it's a little bit silly. What do you, Georgie? What do you think about Ukraine restoring its historic borders of Voronezh, Kuban, Rostov, Bilogorsk, Kursk, Smolensk? Do you think Ukraine wants or needs that? No, I don't think Ukraine needs that, because it's disregards the whole core of conflict, the whole idea of democracy. Because what is Ukraine right now fighting for? I am saying we should support Ukraine because Russia has broken the rule of law. Russia has broken the world order. Russia has turned United Nations into a joke. So right now, international law and the world order has been eroded by Russia. Putin has openly expressed his disdain with the fact that the world that Western powers have built post Second World War is dog shit. And a lot of powers, a lot of politicians in the Western Hemisphere, we see that they're eating it up. They're saying, yes, we are that bad. We are so incapable. We are so sick. Like, the only option for us is to come back to the might makes right type of world. And the problem with might makes right is that world is going to become more dangerous. That we're going to see more wars, and more wars, including the wars potentially in Europe. Because once we switch from the law and rule based order that we've built so far, when we switch to might makes right, we're going to start seeing a lot of weird conflicts popping up. And if you're sitting there and thinking, oh yeah, but me it's not going to touch, well, think again, because China maybe going to have something to say about this. There is now a very strong discussion about Russia, Iran, and China being in a triangle of axis of evil, so to speak. Imagine Russia winning, and we're just like, well, it's okay. We're just gonna start, this new world, and then they're just gonna build up their power of evil. Russia with their population and their resources, China with their resources. They're gonna have a lot of things to say. And then when you end up one day, or maybe your children gonna end up in a world where we're gonna see the world split between two mighty powers that are going to be aggressively fighting for certain lands, well, then you might find, I don't know, that parts of France are being disputed, some Greece territories, parts of Poland, parts of maybe if we're talking South America, maybe there's going to be war in South America, Falklands, maybe again. There are plenty of pretexts for war. There are plenty of pretexts for war. But one of the major things of the rule of law and the international world order that the Western powers have built post Second World War was that there are certain police force that help mitigate uncertainty. That even if there is a war, it is localized. And while the wars happened, very often these wars were stopped. It wasn't ideal, but it worked. Right now, we saw the problem of Russia invading, and why it's not the same war, is because Russia is in the head of the UN Security Council. It's disgusting. It's absolutely disgusting. And more importantly, we're seeing so many immoral messages from a lot of these cross-national organization that they're saying that it's okay that there is an aggressor and the aggressor can have its territory. We are reliving again the pretext to the Second World War. So that's why it's important for us. That's why it's important for us to just, donate to some drones while we can. That's why it's important for us to remember and write our politicians every week. Because if we don't do it right now, we're going to see a world that is a lot more dangerous than we can ever imagine. And it's going to threaten us. And instead of coming back to the world of peace where we just lived in our cozy lives, like thought about careers, we're starting to think, oh, do I know how to get to the nearest bomb shelter? Do I know how to take apart my machine gun? Well, I mean, like for US, probably it's not a big deal. But like, do I know that my kids are knowing how to defend themselves? Are they going to army service? And so on. That's what I'm talking about. I like democracy. I like peaceful democracy. I like peaceful co-relationship with countries. But democracies needs to be with fists. And we need to put dictators that challenge this world peace to make sure that they understand that this is not going to be happening in the case. And unfortunately, so far, democracies are not really standing up to the task as much as I would want it to be, in my perspective. Christopher, carry on. Autumn is nigh. Thanks. Yes. Kiel, welcome. Warriors, please take care of yourselves. Thanks so much for 5 members. I appreciate it. Ibag, Ibag or Ibag M. Thank you. I'm butchering names. Captain Copenhagen, Kiev is the first. It's Kiev, not Kiev. Kiev is the first Rus city, and Moscow is a product of Kiev. Both are Viking Slavic cities. It's a complicated. It's a very, very complicated history. Muscovy, technically, they were Slavic, yes, but their culture has been, especially the way that their rulers operate, has been severely influenced by the Mongol Empire. I'm not saying Russians are Mongols. That's silly. I'm saying that the way that their country operates, their cultural code, has been severely infested with a lot of those post-Mongol Empire paradigms. Space Karen, I was wondering if Ukraine uses 4G connections for the drones. If so, the drones can be operated anywhere in the world remotely and not easily scrambled as long as the cell towers are around. Well, Karen, it's nice, but like you said it yourself, as long as cell towers are around. I'm not sure if you saw Bakhmut and how it looks, but let's just say in a pile of rubble, there is very little cell towers that are standing around. So, Jets, thanks so much for 20 gifted subs. Appreciate it. The difference between Captain, yes, Kiev was also taken by Mongols. Like they fought. Yes, it's a difficult history. Like it's not about. I'm not saying it to say who resisted and who didn't resist to Mongols. That's not the point I'm making. I'm saying that a lot of the Russian current leadership and leading style and the cultural style has been influenced by the Mongol rule. It's nothing to do to say who fought valiantly, who didn't fought valiantly, because at some point Muscovy also rebelled against the Mongols. But the problem is that they rebelled, but instead of removing the Mongolian culture and how they treated their populations, they embraced it themselves. It's like a meme. Like you were supposed to be the chosen one. You were supposed to destroy the dark side, not join it, or something like that. I cannot quote Star Wars. Florian Guy, thanks Georgie for the show and all the best to Armed Forces of Ukraine fighters. For sure, absolutely. Woohoo, Slavo Ukraini. Yes, OCT. Thank you so much. Thanks, Georgie, for the show and all the best to our AFU fighters. Absolutely. Glory to Armed Forces of Ukraine. Yes. Niels, woohoo, Aussie. Yes, absolutely. All right, more questions. Wasn't there a lot of... Okay, sorry. It's up to the people of Ukraine to decide what is their culture and what extent they distinguish themselves from Russia. We can only support... yes, agreed completely. Awesome HPT knows what he's talking about. Lucky Split, heard missile launch from Belarus, not much being made of it. What is the implication of it and why it's not bigger news? Thank you, Slava Ukraini, to victory and beyond. It's the news cycle. Some things make the news, some things just slip from the news. It's a big experiment in throwing stuff at the wall and seeing what sticks. At least that's what I'm seeing from a lot of Western-style medias. And from Belarus, yes, there was a launch. As far as I'm aware, it's been intercepted. But this is not the first launch from Belarus. It's just the first in a while. Russia is trying to find new angles, trying to penetrate Ukrainian defenses. Belarus is part of the aggressive force, because it's not a surprising thing, because Belarus by Ukrainians is considered to be part of the aggressive force. They're on the side of aggression. They themselves are not fighting actively, but they are supporting and facilitating aggression against Ukraine. So Belarus is as guilty as Russia. Wasn't there a lot of volunteer pilots and mech guys on F-16s? I don't know the details. So, Revan, sorry, I don't know the details on F-16s. It's anyone can guess. Right now, we know that Ukrainian pilots are being trained, that F-16s are going to be delivered after Ukrainian pilots finish training. That is what's being said. I don't have any insights, and if I would have insights, it actually wouldn't fact that I would say. But generally speaking, we will see F-16s no earlier than next year. That's pretty much for sure. GLSDB, no idea. No idea. GLSDB was supposed to be there at June. They still haven't arrived. I'm not sure what's the case. No experts that I've heard of has put any concrete talking points on it. That is very much annoying because everyone was expecting GLSDB. And Leopard 1 tanks, well, I mean, there was delivered 10 from Germany, whereas they were supposed to be, again, June. Remember, promised, oh, we're going to deliver 100 tanks by June. Remember that? There was a news there. Oh my God, what is happening? So where are they? This is what I'm talking when I'm saying like about Western allies. Ukraine is getting all of these promises. They are saying, oh, we're gonna have 150 tanks more by midsummer. And what do we see instead? Instead, we're seeing 10 tanks delivered in August. How can you plan something like this? Imagine, like, let's devolve from warfare. Like, imagine you want to pay rent, and there's a guy that says, don't worry, I'm gonna give you $1,000, and let's say bucks, and your rent is like 750. And the guy says, I'm gonna give you $1,000 next Monday. Monday comes, and guy says, oh, sorry, like I cannot, but like I will as soon as I can. And then like the rent is coming, and the guy comes and it's like, well, you remember like I promised you $1,000, and you're like, yes. Well, he's 100, and it's like 2 weeks later. How can you plan from it? That's the frustration for it. And then we're like getting all of these weird media outlets. Oh, Ukraine not advancing fast enough. Oh, assholes. Your thoughts on Tristan Tate tweet on Ukraine and the West being at fault? Sadly, he has 1.5 million views and 12,000 likes on the BS. People listen to propaganda because it's nice. You know how popular were anti-vaxxers? You know how much views anti-vaxxers got? So it's very saddened that good messages get obscured by some weird-ass propaganda, but it's more of a question like, should tolerant societies tolerate intolerance? And in my perspective, no. So when people state their opinion and their opinion is wrong, you know, that's why certain aspects of promotion are required. I already talked about this once, but it's the algorithm that a lot of the social media platforms are promoting is very biased towards misinformation. And I'll explain why. Because we people that try to consider what is true, what is not, and most of my community, when I talk to everyone, when people start pointing out their opinions, I know that in my community, there's a lot of, like, the average level of intellect is just quite high. Like, I don't want to measure by any specific point. I'm just saying that people are making reasonable arguments. They are thinking through a lot of times their arguments. Sometimes they're saying some things out of their backside, but very, very rarely. But most of the time, whenever like push comes to shove, there is a certain level of argumentation there. And that argumentation can be wrong. For me, that's saying only one thing, that people that support Ukraine mostly consider what is true, what is not. So they want to like understand, well, why Russia attacked? Why is Russia attacking? Why is Ukraine defending? And these people, when they see certain news saying, oh, there is this things happening, there's like, oh, is this a trusted source? Is this a person that I know? Has the information been verified? What are the sources? Have you seen like what is the total quantity? Is this important? And a lot of these other questions. And what happens is a lot of overthinking. And we are seeing then a lot of people from the other side, such as like anti-vaxxers, other dipshits that are promoting complete bullshit. That's why, for example, like homeopathy is so popular and so on, and other like anti-scientific, like complete nonsense that has nothing to do with reality, yet is completely prevalent. Why? And in social media, everything that matters is attention. And if a person just looks at the news and is like, oh, this looks fantastic, I'll share it to all of my friends. So not only then he goes on his social media, he makes it a reshare, then he also writes a message promoting, oh, this was the best. It was better than orgasm that I had. Like, look at this, how this mushroom is curing COVID for 100,000%. Eat 100,000 pounds on this mushroom and no COVID is going to touch you ever. It doesn't matter for him. Like, he doesn't assess this critically. So he's coming, seeing, and then promoting it. And the cycle continues a lot faster. So the news that are just being promoted faster are getting priority. Whereas if a news is targeting audience that are on my channel, the audience that are watching me, a lot of times it's someone that's more critical of their sources. They will not just reshare some BS news article because they will think that like, oh my God, I will look silly then. You know, someone will tell to me that's like, oh, maybe like, you know, there was like an article that you shared like a week ago, and there was you mentioned there was like 10 tanks, but it was actually 9 tanks. So, haha, you were wrong. And then it's like, oh, maybe I shouldn't have shared it. You understand what I mean? Like, I'm exaggerating, but you know what I'm talking about. And that's the problem of social media. And this cannot be fixed. It just is. The only way fixing this is that you watch my content, that you go to this channel's page and watch all of the other pro-Ukrainian media. That is why I'm supporting a lot of pro-Ukrainian media, because it's important to do this. Because only by watching, sharing, commenting, and being active, we can get the actual message out there. Because we are at disadvantage. Ukraine is fighting against a very strong propaganda machine. We are making a lot of jokes about Russian military as how incompetent. They are not ready for war. They were never ready for war. Their military is dog shit, yes. They have a lot of huge stacks of weapons from the Soviet times. It gave them a lot of time to train a little bit, gave them a lot of times, you know, resources to burn. So they have a lot of like this pillow. In the same way, for Ukraine, it was also problematic to fight against propaganda, because Russia was using propaganda all this time. They were building their network. They were putting a lot of the oil money, the money that we, the Western powers, the Western world, were paying to Russia. So they erode our society. So they put their propaganda into our ears, buying a lot of these platforms, buying population, making brand, making a name for themselves. And now we're suddenly saying, oh my God, there's so much propaganda. What do we do about this? The problems, what happened with propaganda is happened before. So right now, the question is, what are you doing to fight it? And that is the expanded answer to that. I'm not going to delve into too much. Oh my God, I already spoken like 15 minutes. All right, more questions. Any update? Okay, already. GLSDB, yes. Philip Richter, or anyone in chat, do you guys think landing craft air cushion, the hovercraft, will be helpful for transport vehicles and personnel to the southern Ukraine? Okay, again, Ukraine needs everything. Everything. In a war that scale, the big as Ukraine is fighting right now, they need everything. Everything. The question is not one or maybe and, it's yes. Yes, 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 yes. Everything. Short-range weapons, yes. Long-range weapons, yes. Hovercraft, yes. Vehicles, yes. Ammunition, yes. Everything, yes, 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 yes. Like, it's not even a question. What's the alternative scenario to Ukraine returning to pre-2014 borders? Not sure what like, there is no alternative scenario. There is no alternative scenario. The alternative scenario, I guess, would be Ukraine taking over Voronezh and other borders that were pre-Soviet occupation. But in this war, Ukraine is coming back to 2014, one way or another. There is no alternative. Hi, Georgia. What is the reason for long lack of updates to the deep state map? Is there just nothing happening? Is there renewed offensive happening? Okay, so Gideon here is exactly what I'm addressing in every single of my videos. People look at the map and say, oh, nothing is happening. Watch my updates. In my updates, I explain very well what is happening, and I also explain a lot why the map doesn't move. I explain it in every video for the past 3 weeks. Please watch my videos where I explain how and why the map doesn't move. Map movements is a very, very bad evaluation criteria at the current stage of war. We are not in the active stage. Right now, Ukraine is doing a lot of damage to Russian forces. They are submitting them to awful conditions. They are pushing into attrition. This doesn't mean that they are ready yet to penetrate and access and go deep into the Russian-controlled territory. We need to understand that it's a big operation. This offensive is a huge operation. Evaluation of the success or failures of this offensive is going to come maybe late September, maybe even mid-October. We're going to be able to talk about whether it was success or failure. But right now, Ukraine is in a certain phase. And for that matter, we need to be aware what are the criteria for evaluation for this specific phase Ukraine in. And I'm both telling about it in my every video, and I'm also talking about it in my community tab where I described how much weapons and artillery pieces Ukraine has been destroyed. The Gotshell, which comes first, Russia's military defeat or economic collapse, forcing them to negotiate? The ruble is collapsing, defense budget is collapsing. No, Russian economy is not in so dire state, my friend. Russian economy is in deep troubles. However, that deep troubles, economies tend to be very, very flexible. I know that for a fact because I was living in a country that suffered 27% reduction in 2 years. In 2008 financial crisis, Latvia, as an example, suffered a 27% reduction in their GDP. 27% is over a quarter. That is a lot. That is a lot. That is a lot. Imagine a quarter of whatever you have gone, like just gone. 2 years doesn't exist. That is the level that Latvia survived. It went through it, and it came out better on the other end. But Russian economy has been degrading very, very slowly. Sanctions that Western powers started putting on Russia are really started seriously hurting. However, since then, what did you hear about sanctions in the last 6 months? Can you tell me? Can anyone in chat tell me what kind of new sanctions or counter sanctions that would prevent retrade for Russia has been there? And the answer will be very, very few. There have been done some, but it's like sprinkle. Greece is a big trading fleet for Russia. A lot of Russian ships were prohibited in trading, and Greece and their fleet were just like, hey, money. And Greece is now pretty much a full-time delivery boy for Russia. Greece, yes, that Greece. So when we're talking about Russian economy collapsing and Russian economy suffering, the question is, who is putting the pressure? Because there was some pressure. It created a lot of issues for Russia. It's still creating a lot of issues for Russia. Don't get me wrong. Russian economy is not doing well. It's looking very, very grim. But the point is, they still have a way to go. They still can cut social spending, like the government spending is not yet fully into military. There is still plenty of social spending. So Russia can kill not only their military, they can also kill their civilians. You need to remember about that. So a lot of people can still be cut from the budgetary. They still have a way to go. But the problem is, that there are countries that are only in words saying we're putting pressure on Russia. And then with the other hand, they're like, yeah, but let's do these, under the table deals. And then when the pressure comes, like, well, are you enforcing sanctions? The answer is like, well, yeah, but money. Money. So it's very hard to talk about Russian collapse as an economy if there is no pressure on economy. Well, let's put it this way. The pressure on economy is insufficient. So while I really want that the pressure would be both military and economically on Russia, so far, I'm not seeing it. I'm not seeing it. Okay, there's some comments. Tom, thanks so much for 50 bucks. Appreciate it. GB Sweden, thanks so much for 200 Swedish kronas. Trister, thanks so much for 20 bucks. Sub Hero, really nice seeing you again here, my friend. Thanks for 10 bumps. Captain Copenhagen, whoa, Danish LP1 have been spot on trains. Oh, cool. Yvonne, thanks very much for 3 francs. John, thanks very much for 10 bucks. Thank you for the effort work that I do. I'm hoping it matters. Cedric, thanks so much for 20 francs. Russian troop pronounce where was Slava SSO. Absolutely. Christopher, thanks so much. Well said. Agree completely. Absolutely. All right. Let's go. I'm today kind of like in a ranting mood, no? Like I'm answering very, very few questions. What do you feel, guys? Like, are you okay, or should I just answer 2 questions faster? Or you're okay with my rants today? I don't know. I feel like talking. What would have happened if the Orc oil tanker was stuck under the bridge itself? A bit of navigation hazard. What? You mean the tanker that was hit? No, like, come on, they have the barges that can move the tankers. It's fine. Lil Bubs, the Kerch Strait is geologically a disastrous place to build a bridge. Yes, given the 2 attacks in their chance Kerch bridge would simply collapse on its own due to stress. I don't know the severity. Like, I wasn't there to see it. It's a very complex question. Can it collapse? Yes. Will it collapse? Well, that's like, you need to watch, I don't know, some kind of a show where they're guessing the future. I don't know. I know that Ukraine will hit bridge again. They will find a way and they will hit bridge again and it will be collapsed. How, when, why, I don't know. When do I get my CIA money for being NATO bot? Can you write me a mail? I'll get you in contact with my contact from CIA. Maybe you can work it out. Ingboy, what should you say to a person who wants to show support to Ukraine by buying Ukrainian flag and flying it from window, but after they see a price tag on the flag, they just send amount of money to Ukraine? I mean, support can be in different ways. Flying flag is nice. It's nice. It's great support. But in my perspective, flying flag is nice, but a couple of kamikaze drones are better. That's why one of the reasons why I'm still doing this channel. I'm going to continue doing this channel until victory, until Ukraine wins. And I am full certain that sometimes in the West, we see this moral support as a big virtue, whereas Ukraine is lacking so much in actual physical support that's just not being delivered by our governments. And I want to make sure that on the civil level, like, if I'm able to reach out to 1, 2, 5, 10 people specifically to say, hey, can you go to that Terra Ops links and send some money so they can buy some drones? Every 10 drones is a couple of Russian vehicles destroyed. It's a couple of millions of rubles and dollars that Russia will not have available. So less people potentially will die. It's a preventative medicine. So it's important. Don't get me wrong. It's very important to wave the flag and support the flag. But if instead of just buying a flag, you can just draw it on a piece of paper and put it on your window with duct tape, that would be fine by me. All right. Mafpa, hi George, I'm curious, why donate to TerraOps instead of U24? I'm afraid more money would go to taxes instead of the actual cause. No, what? No. This money that you're sending to TerraOps is like directly. It's like direct. Like there isn't more direct. You're literally sending right to the unit. Like United, like both are important. Both is like I'm advancing sometimes United 24, sometimes we're doing work with NAFO, sometimes now potentially we're going to do something with Saint Javelin. We're also, but just today we're doing the TerraOps because there's many different options. Like remember, Ukraine needs everything, and it needs in quantities that no one is providing it to it. No one is providing, and I'm just showing options. How if you have like a couple of bucks that you can share, and I'm saying if you want to support this channel, maybe don't. Like support this channel, it's great, I appreciate. But if you still have a couple of bucks, maybe consider supporting Ukrainians because they're the fighting on the front lines. That's the message. You know, it's not that's like, oh, you should support TerraOps instead of United 24. No, both are important. Different objectives. United 24 focuses a lot on strategic objectives. Right now, current naval drones, United 24. Like the fact that Ukraine is striking Russian logistics and putting it in a stone age, United 24. It's the $5 that you donated on this thing some time ago. There's like a meme that's going on around right now about that. But TerraOps, they're fighting every day. They're saying, hey, there's a tank that's coming at us. Wouldn't it be nice if we could have a couple of FPV drones? Different objectives, but very important, both of them. Hi, Georgia. I'm curious. Okay, sorry, that was already it. Nathan, I heard a report where they already F-16s painted for Ukrainian colors already in East Europe. Are they coming soon? I haven't heard it. Graceful Green, Ukraine is Ukraine. There is no need for anti. Yes. Texas, do you donate money to Ukrainian military? Yes, constantly. When will the Ukrainians start using the F-16s? Hopefully as soon as possible. I was hoping yesterday, but in my perspective, they should have been started training at basically the third, fourth month of the war. And like, why not? Why not train troops right now? Even if you're not giving, like, let them just have trained troops. It's not a big deal. It's up to people. Awesome, HPT. It's up to people in Ukraine to decide what the culture is and what to distinguish themselves from Russia. We can only support. Yes, true. Oh, I think I read this already. Yeah, it's the cushion aircraft. Adamantium, do we know how many brigades Ukraine has in reserve? Yes, approximately. Latest count. I'm thinking like when you're talking reserve is you're thinking like that are ready for attack but have not been engaged. Latest count of what I've heard are about. Okay, let me count. So there have been engaged roughly 8 brigades ish. In like it's not completely accurate. About 6 brigades have been engaged. Okay, like they have been engaged at a good level. About 4 of them at a very good level, like very sufficiently engaged. Ukraine had about somewhere from 24 to 35 brigades ready. If we're talking about assault brigades, like the ones that are supposed to penetrate, like the spearhead, then there should be at least 6 more, 7 more brigades that can go for spearhead still. So all in all, Ukraine still has over 20 brigades ready to go for this offensive. It's a lot. It's a lot. It's a lot. Do you think if bombing minefields cleared them enough? No. Bombing minefields does not work. Gideon, hi Georgie, what is the reason for the long lack of... Oh, already answered that one. I don't know, weird chat. Like, I was scrolling down and it was just kind of jumping up. Do you see a... Okay, do you think Trump is a Russia... Artureo 808. Do you think Trump is a Russian-backed person, or does he support Ukraine? But does he not know how? I don't think Trump supports Ukraine. I think Trump has a weird perception of the world. I believe he is not seeing the bigger picture. I believe he has a very shallow view on things. Very, very shallow. I believe he looks a very, very surface on what's good for US, right? It's his arguments saying that we need not to, and excuse me for doubling into American politics, but the question was there, so I'm going to answer what I think. So he looks at it and says, oh, US is trying to be world police. We shouldn't intervene. We should think about US first. And on the surface, it makes sense. The problem with that argument is that it's not making sense when you are starting to think it through. Because when you start thinking it through, it falls apart. Because the question then becomes, how far back do you go? How far back do you give your interests away? US has built, after the Second World War, a position of great power, position of great influence. And Russia and China are testing that power. They are saying, US has all of this power. We don't think US should have that, so we should take it. By stating that we should focus on US first and not think about what other countries are doing, what he essentially is saying is that we should give some of that power to Russia. So it's a very defeatist position in my perspective. Because as you start giving away your power and influence, your enemies start to become stronger. And if you start doing it step after step after step after step, where do you stop? If you stop by the borders of US and everything else is Russia and China, how do you feel? Like, people were very worried about Cuban crisis some time ago. But back then, US was the big state, big important. Now imagine if we do all of these steps where we say, US good, but we don't need to bother about this. And if we just continue into that paradigm, then US at some point is going to find themselves surrounded by enemies. And it's going to be a very different world. And that's why I really believe that a lot of that message, and I know there's like a lot of political opinion about this, and I'm not going to go that deep into what different parties think and so on. That's US politics. You can sort it out. But what I'm seeing is that there is a lack of deep insight into what's the consequences of inaction. That is a problem for US. And I'm actually going to say this. I usually don't comment a lot on no, it's a problem for US, but it's a common problem. It's a problem that's everywhere. Even big business has problems with this. If you go into different companies and businesses, you will see that oftentimes biggest problems are coming from the fact that there is inaction, that certain historical circumstances made it so that indecision and inaction became sort of a virtue. And that's the big problem for big companies. And that's the crisis that the Western world right now is in. It's the crisis of inaction. And that's the question that we are posing. Can we overcome that? Can we actually find ourselves and find where the borders lie? Because right now, our borders are being challenged very aggressively. Yes, Crusader, Damien, are you kidding about diminishing the quintessential importance of flying the Ukrainian flag of foreign soil? It is one of the highest importance, as flags mean a great deal to Western morality. Yeah, I know. I'm saying. What? No, dude, that's not what I said. I said flags are important, but Ukraine is also important. And there's a lot of practical things Ukraine is missing. I really think that flags are really, really important. I'm just saying you don't have to buy a lot of big flags. Potentially you can buy a smaller one. And the difference, you can support terror ops. I don't know. But, both are important. Like, if you want to buy a flag, buy a fucking flag. If I would have a store, I would plug in right now, but it's not there yet. John1208, what's the best and the worst thing about Ukraine? Oh, that's a great one. So the best things is the people. People of Ukraine are amazing. It's absolutely incredible. I fell in love with Ukrainian people. It's a very young country in a sense that they are so eager, in a sense of like almost naive, to look at how democracy works, how Western world works, and there is not a lot of that nonsensical bureaucracy. But what I think would be the worst, I think the worst is indecisiveness in population. I believe that there is still certain national ideas that not fully materialized. I believe we are not fully aligned with Ukraine on what Ukraine should be after the war. And I am really worried about this, because Ukraine will have multiple options. They can become a really nice European democracy after the war, or they can slide into some nationalistic BS country where they're going to have really big problems. And to make influence there, we would need more influence over Ukraine. So I think that this is kind of, both are connected. I think the fact that Ukrainian society is still maturing, I believe it's important for us to stay close with them so we can help them guide to the proper Western style democracy country. But it shouldn't be done in a sense that we're just going to tell them what to do, because it's just going to be causing opposite reaction, just because Ukrainians are very sensitive to the concept of don't tell me what to do, I know best. Like, it's like a person, and that's a big problem. That can be a big problem, because they can turn in very, very wrong ways. Captain Company, Trump only cares about his own election campaign and himself. Oh, that's absolutely. He's not Republican. What do you think Reagan would do? Captain, yes, but people that vote for Trump are still within Republican Party. Now, is he not Republican as Republicans were, like Reagan-style Republican? Yeah, definitely not. But times change. Politics change. You live in Denmark. We now have the center party. We don't have left and blue almost anymore. Things change. Things change. We also are now living with this fuckery that Lars Løkke has made. We also need to figure out how to live with this further. I know a lot of people, both from the right and from the left, being really weirded out with the whole situation right now. Because before it was okay, red bloc, blue bloc, fine, we can live with this. But now it's all fucked. All right, questions. Can you make an episode, and this time you ask people ideas on how to overcome minefields or other obstacles Ukraine is facing? We may learn a lot and help Ukraine army with crowd brainstorming. Dude, Tosun, there are very good experts on the battlefield that are knowing how to demine. Most of the non-demining that is happening is that Ukraine doesn't have resources. It's like Ukraine is not lacking creativity. We are like, you're trying to provide something that Ukraine is not lacking. I'm saying Ukraine needs everything, yes, but Ukraine is saying what they need. They need tools. Ukraine is just lacking resources. Ideas, they have plenty. Like there is like a couple of foundations, like for example, Come Back Alive Foundation, that is run by some of the ex-militaries from Ukraine, and they have some really impressive projects, absolutely incredible. They just don't have resources for it. Why do countries recognize North Korea as a country? It's literally communist-supported breakaway state that occupied half of North Korea and its people. It's a long and actually big philosophical question about what makes country a country. Quite interesting one. I suggest you Google. Like literally ask not about the North Korea, but Google is like what makes country a country. Very interesting topics. I would recommend that. So very good question, but not for me. Brian V, do you think US and its allies should take the ban of Ukraine using Western weapons on Russia bases? The ban that is there to not use weapons on Russian territory is silly one. It's nonsensical. It's something that Western powers would never impose on themselves. And yet they're trying to impose it on Ukraine. I don't understand why Ukraine needs to fight this fight where they are... Okay, important part. We think about, like, a lot of people's... how do I start? Like, where do I start even? We are living in a world, absurdity of which we don't even realize. It's because we've seen things change gradually. So for us, the situation that we're in makes complete and total sense. However, the situation is absurd to none. Why? Because we are discussing Ukraine fighting Russia on an even field, and Ukraine having an advantage, and maybe the offensive that Ukraine is doing on Russian military is not going as smooth as some people were expecting. Try to take that statement and imagine it 2 years ago. Let's say, like, okay, 3 years ago. 3 years ago, you would be saying somewhere, like, thinking, hey, I wonder how things are in Eastern Europe. And then, like, imagine a situation. Oh, Ukraine is attacking Russia after their failed offensive into Ukraine, that they overturned, that they destroyed a lot of Russian logistics, that they destroyed thousands and thousands of tanks that are like 5 times normal European military, and like Russian Soviet style, Russian Soviet huge, massive stockpiles are now more than halfway depleted. Imagine that statement over 2 years ago. It's ludicrously different. It's ludicrous. Like, people would just like say, are you stupid? And we are living right now in this world. We're living in a world where we are judging Ukraine and considering whether Ukraine should do this, whether Ukraine should do that. You know, maybe Ukraine can fight Russia also a little bit disadvantaged. Maybe Ukraine doesn't really need those 150 Leopard tanks. Maybe they can defeat Russia with what they're having right now. It's absolutely stupendously impossible message just 2 years ago. And now we're talking it about it's like as a cup of coffee. And that is just not fitting my mind. We Ukrainians have done the impossible. They've turned the world around. They've turned everything that we thought we knew, we didn't. They turned everything on their heads. And now this massive, incredibly, like, world's second best military, super soldier, serum, major propaganda, all kinds, super Putin, naked body, riding horse. All of that has been turned into a joke. And now we're just like, well, should or should not Ukraine fight Russia on their soil? Listen to the question. All right. Do you think Ukraine will root out more corruption from within and or catch more Russian collaborators? Yes. But my answer to you, my question to you, my Roku, that asking every time someone is asking me, like, will Ukraine root out Russian corruption? Will London root out Russian corruption? Will Germany root out Russian corruption? Will UN root out Russian corruption? We need to understand that when we're saying Ukrainian corruption, we are not the sane ones. We are not really good. We're not good. We're not on the high ground here. There is a lot of Russian corruption in specifically Western powers. A lot of our indecision is because of Russian corruption. France is struggling because their second biggest party, if not even first biggest party, is basically Russia-led. Germany, like just last week, found out that a lot of their financing comes from Russia. Wow, what a surprise. There's like alternative for Germany. Was it surprise to you? So when we're talking about Ukraine and corruption, good question. Good question. But a bit of nuance. All right. Let's do 15 minutes more because I have to work tomorrow, and then we're gonna wrap it up. I don't see any more question actually. Let's see. Okay, Lil Bubs. A lot of media is treating the counteroffensive as a game to be won on a timer. What do you think the minimum gain will be to satisfy the media to call the offensive a success, Bakhmut, Tokmak, etc.? I already talked about this. I believe Tokmak would be, for me, a success. As for timer, I believe media is putting wrong timer on. Media is dumb. Like, all of these, like the only good Western media that has been producing more or less good quality content was The Economist. I gotta say, it was The Economist that mostly has been producing researched and properly organized articles. A lot of the Wall Street Journal, New York Times, like Washington Post, especially, these three, they were Bild and Deutsche Welle and so on. There was so much nonsense and all. BBC as well. So much fucking nonsense there. Just completely like weird articles, like just absolutely nothing to do with reality. Just headlines, running the calculations on how many views they got and so on. Everything there. It's like The Economist was the only one that's more or less really stood up to that. Not fully. There were some different things, but it's like, for me, this war just shown like just how poor Western media is. When you know, we've been built on this weird many sides discussions in our societies where we have opinions and then we discuss those opinions. And when there is a war that is as black and white as Russia invading Ukraine, then this whole perspective just completely doesn't fit your brain cells, just how stupid it looks. And that's why, for me, they're just looking stupid. You know, it's like a couple of naked people with signs just yelling outside. That's how dumb they look. The only one that is dumber is international organizations, like UN and other ones. Jesus. Captain Copenhagen. Have the Russians shot themselves in the foot with a civilian ship blockade, which they cannot implement, and the Ukrainians have started to block Russian civilian ships with drones? Yes, they did. I will talk more about civilian ship blockade on my other channel. So I will not delve here, just because if it's 15 minutes, I don't want to go in another big speech. Ingboy, I heard that from the start of Cold War, Russia was supporting any anti-democracy movement financially in the whole Western world. Any comments? Yes. I mean, I'm not sure if it's a secret. I'm pretty sure like, you ask a person about their country and ask that person, which party does Russia support? And I'm pretty sure you're gonna find out that Russia is sending money to that party if you dig in hard enough. It's the easy as that. Easy as that. It's very easy. Can Kaliningrad, it's not Kaliningrad, it's Kralowitz, please. Let's call Kralowitz by its accurate name. Can Kaliningrad and St. Petersburg be blockaded by NATO to prevent troop movements and arms getting into Kaliningrad and leverage Russia into allowing Ukraine grain export? I mean, Kralowitz is already blockaded. Like Kralowitz, no weapons. Lithuania and Poland are not allowing weapons to go through their territory. The only way weapons are getting into Kralowitz is through sea so far. But maybe. But I don't think it's like that. Like Russia understands force. The more force we apply, the better it's gonna be. Kralowitz, Czechia, yes. Yes. Okay, I'm gonna close Q&A just so we are not confused. I'm gonna answer some questions from the chat, but other than that, Any comments on international NGOs and the Ukrainian-Russian war? I talked plenty. International NGOs has shown themselves that they cannot adapt to morality. Like they like Russian dirt money. They like dirty Russian money too much. International NGOs. Russia has spent a lot of times infiltrating a lot of these international organizations, sports organizations, international big organization like Red Cross, like United Nations. It's all fucking corrupt. It's really bad. Ooh, any comments on Saudi Arabia summit and leaks on their pro-Ukraine stance? Okay, so I need more context. Right now, they're going on news about the summit in that Ukraine participated in, and right now there's like supposedly some article that's saying that Ukraine has given their positions that said that, oh, we can start negotiations with Russian troops staying in the territory of Ukraine. That is complete nonsense. It's total BS. Has nothing to do with reality. Absolutely nothing. It's false, wrong. It's nothing there. It wasn't happen. It's not. Nothing is there. That's not happening. I don't know how much I need to say. Let me find the meme. Like, I need to... Yeah, there we go. There we go. Everything, I cannot never say it better than this guy. Oh. Wrong window.
It's false. No way. Not this time. We created it. Not this time. No, not this time. It's totally made up. Pure fiction. It's fiction. It's fiction. We made it up. We made this one up. It's a made-up tale. It's a total fabrication. It never happened. It never happened. This one was invented by a writer. Not this time. It never happened. It's false. It never happened. It's a fake. It's fiction. It's an urban legend that never happened. No way. We got you. Not a chance. Not this time. It never happened. It never happened. We made this one up. It's fiction. We made up this one.
You get my point. That's the fact that Ukraine supposedly agreed to leave Russian forces on its territory. Thanks again for the video. There's a fine line between healthy nationalism and Nazism, so the Westerns are scared of ourselves and imposters, and Russia is winning with hybrid warfare, Imo. I don't think Russia is winning anything. I think Russia is full of shit. What I think is that we're allowing Russia too much leeway. My biggest point whenever I'm arguing is not about Russia winning. Russia is fucking done. They're gonna lose this war. It's gonna be terrible for them. It's gonna be fucking atrocious to be Russian for decades to come. The problem is not Russia. Like my whole point on a lot of this channel is A, support Ukraine, and B, talk about Western powers, because I'm from Europe. I like West. Like if I can judge by some of the comments on my channels, I'm also very much sponsored by the CIA. So, and I need to work for my money, right? So I like the West. I like Western democracies. I fucking love democracies. And I want West to be stronger. I want to make sure and work towards as much as I can with my small person. Like I'm just a guy on YouTube that yells at camera, right? And from my position, I just want us to become stronger. So no bullshit country, fake country like Russia can ever tell us what to do. So when they say we're gonna terrorize you, we're gonna try to make sure that there are people that are gonna suffer without food in Africa, instead of us saying, well, you know, it's like we don't know what to say, we say like, no, you will not do that. I want us to be strong. I want us to stand for what's right, because that's how I was raised. That's what European values supposedly stand for. And me as a European, I very much support that. I just want us to stand up to these same values. I want to make sure that when Greece helps Russia circumvent sanctions, I call it out. Because we're in the same union together, no? Aren't we? When Hungary is completely authoritarian, I'm going to call it out. Because Hungary, we're in the same union together. Are we not? Where is my democracy? I am demanding my democracy. I love democracy. I love Western democracy. But I believe that democracy needs to be with big fucking guns to make sure that no BS happens to it. I want us to have free societies, but free societies need to be protected. That's how I'm seeing it. I might be wrong. I mean, like, it's just my opinion, man, you know? Stuff like that. But that's why I feel that supporting Ukraine is very valuable to us. Thanks for the stream. Yes, going to sleep. Bye-bye. Thank you so much. I'm also going to wrap it up in a second, so it's all good. What is the estimated rate of replacement of personnel and equipment? How many Mobics are typically delivered replacements? Russian or Ukrainian side? Ukrainian, I will not comment. Russian side, it happens in waves. Right now, let's say if Ukraine kills less than, what was it, like less than like 400 per day, like kills or severely injures less than 400 per day, they're not keeping up. Okay, cool. Apache, like, dude, like everything to Ukraine. We need to make sure that Russia knows that you don't fuck with the West. That's what I want Russia to learn. I want Russia to learn from this whole endeavor, is that you don't fuck with the West. That's what I want Russia to learn. I want to learn that you don't assault democracy. You don't terrorize democracy. You don't erode democracy. And when you fuck around, you're going to find out very, very soon. And that's what I want. So yeah, everything, Apache, everything. Just do it. We have it. What are they waiting for? Okay, cool. Anyway, I love you guys. Thank you so much for watching this. Please support the channel, support everything, subscribe to the other channel. Oh, wait. Oh, shit. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I see it. Yeah, I didn't talk about the bridges at all. I will have to change thumbnail. Okay, maybe I will not post this video because like I totally didn't talk about the thumbnail of the video. Maybe I'll change the video name for this stream. That's so stupid. I talked about everything except for the topic of the video. Wow, I'm so bad at this. Oh, I'm terrible. Love you guys. See you next time. I'm gonna put a lot more videos this week. Peace.